Welcome to The Toxic Truth About Water, a series dedicated to uncovering the hidden dangers in our water and how to protect ourselves and our families. I'm Dr. Ina, and together with my husband, Dr. Glenn, we'll dive deep into the complexities of water toxicity, its impact on your health, and why the solutions you've been told about may not be as effective as you think.
We'll also share the most reliable, affordable, and sustainable ways to ensure your water is truly safe to drink, cook with, and bathe in. Whether you're concerned about chemical contaminants, biological threats, or simply want to know what's really in your water, this is the series for you.
So let's uncover the truth together so we can live healthier, more empowered lives.
Welcome, everybody. And boy, this is a heavy one for me because this one is serious.
I think they all are. They're all serious. This one, for some reason, just really hits home.
Have you ever heard of forever chemicals? These are the type of chemicals that are in our environment that don't break down.
Yeah. So they're also known as PFAS. So you may be familiar with forever chemicals. You may be familiar with PFAS or the various types of PFAS. And maybe you're very unfamiliar. Either way, this is really important information. So PFAS are per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. And there's a large group of these particular chemicals that have very extraordinary properties. Now there's over 14,000 varieties of these forever chemicals that exist. In what's really interesting is the properties of these PFAS is that it's carbon molecules that are bonded to fluorine. And it is such a strong bond, it literally takes lightning, the power of lightning, to destroy it. So what's interesting is we've man-made these chemicals and we have no way to break them down. They're called forever chemicals because they last forever, not only in our bodies, but in the environment. They're bioaccumulative, so they actually accumulate in wildlife, in human beings. It's actually...
Yeah, it's very scary because they're incredibly mobile. They've found the particles of PFAS in remote areas of the world where people aren't even really living, like in the Arctic. So that's the ability of these chemicals to actually not only travel through the air, but then permeate into our water systems, into our foods, and things that we're being ultimately into our bodies. That's the key.
So let's talk about where do we find these? This has become such a common group of chemical that's used in so many different things, from flame retardants, stain-free carpets,
heat-resistant things?
Yeah, so anything that's either stain-resistant, heat-resistant, or water-repellent, that's the majority of where these chemicals are being used. But it's in, like, when you get, for example, a coffee at maybe your favorite coffee shop, Starbucks, or whatever, maybe you prefer an organic brand somewhere, but those coffee cups typically contain PFAS. Your dental floss, it's inundated in cosmetics and other beauty products. As I said, stain-free carpeting, rain gear.
Wrappers, everything, like food wrappers.
Food packaging, flame retardants. When you go into an airplane, loaded with these forever chemicals. We can go on and on with how in various medical devices. So these forever chemicals are being used everywhere. And they actually were started back in the 1930s, but got very popular in the 1950s. Teflon is probably the one that most of us are most familiar with.
Right.
Non-stick cookware, and there's been a lot of different other varieties of that. Now there's a lot of people who are conscious that look for maybe cookware that doesn't have any toxic chemicals. Air fryers, another place where there's a lot of forever chemicals. So liners and food, again, this is just in so many places, very scary.
And it's not just about the chemical itself and how it's used, of course it is, but it's about what it ends up doing to us, how it affects
our health. Yep. So let's talk about some of that, because that's really, as health professionals, That's the biggest concern. Yes, we are very concerned about the environment as well. And
But why are people concerned about the environment? They're concerned about the environment because it ultimately affects our health.
And it's our home. But we're destroying it. We're destroying the world, our health, like everything. It's all one and the same, right? And so let's just talk about some of the impacts that have been already proven. Okay, so again, these forever chemicals don't break down. So when a medication or chemical or toxin has what's called a half-life, that means how long does it take once our bodies have absorbed this, once we've been exposed to it, how long does it take to reduce to 50% of that original amount? And these forever chemicals, scientists are indicating 5 to 8 years before they reduce to half. Now, they're very pervasive, right? And this is something they're finding forever chemicals in every living organism. Every living organism tested, there are forever chemicals found. And every forever chemical has been proven to have very toxic, harmful effects. So they're finding it in umbilical cord blood, breast milk. The biggest, most vulnerable population are growing fetuses and newborn babies. Our children are so impacted by this.
It's impacting our wildlife, and we consume some of that wildlife.
Correct. It's in the fish.
So
it's in all
it's
the way
like
down the food chain.
We get it whether we're directly in contact with it or indirectly in contact with
Yep.
it.
So we're consuming it, and it's certainly extremely abundant in our water supply.
Let's talk about that for a second, because people are familiar with drinking water and trying to handle their drinking water, but this is now, it's gotten into our groundwater. So what's happened is it gets in the air, it ultimately finds its way out of the air into the ground and then seeps into our groundwater. That's how bad it's gotten over the decades, is that it's permeated our planet and it's in this groundwater and we're consuming it.
Correct. So it's going into our rivers and our lakes. As Glenn mentioned, it's actually going up even into the Arctic, where they're not even using these products necessarily, but they're not exempt from them permeating everywhere.
Finding a lot of it like in industrial sites, of course, because that's where it's used. It's even in the foam that firefighters put out fires with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can you imagine?
And
what they're
remember, we
exposed to?
talked about my Uncle Marty's, with every plus, there's a minus.
Right.
And so we have all of these conveniences. Oh, we
Right.
can use cookware where we don't have to scrub. Oh, we get stains on our carpet. No big problem.
Or on
we'll
our
just
clothes
dab
even,
it
yeah.
out. It's all, so it's the good with the bad. And so let's just talk about some of the health concerns. So
Yeah.
from reproductive perspective, fertility issues, hormonal disruptors, like we're having that major impact. There's a
Right.
lot of different cancers.
Cancers, there's low birth weight we're seeing in babies.
Yep, birth defects.
Defects.
But as far as the cancers go, all different types. Prostate cancer, big impacts on liver health, kidney cancer and kidney function in general, cholesterol levels, elevated cholesterol levels as a result of exposure to these forever chemicals. So it has a very big impact.
How many people do you know have a thyroid issue?
Thyroid issues definitely connected.
So pervasive in the health community, you have no idea. And to know that, or maybe they do have an idea. They do. The people who are creating these know. They do. They've now have the information. Maybe they didn't possibly in the beginning. We believe, I'm not going to get into conspiracies or things like that.
I think that's actually known now. The information about the negative, serious impact of these forever chemicals were hidden from the public, and they were also hidden from the scientists. And now there's so much exposure and transparency. So now, fortunately, but I would say too late, because again, if you create something that you don't know how to get rid of in a way that's healthy and safe, you got yourself a really big problem. We have something that we don't know how to do away with.
We do know how to not use them. So there are alternatives. Chemical companies have come up with alternatives that don't contain any PFAS.
For example, there are other ways that you can create a stain-free carpet, for example, or
Pellet
and why
iodine.
does it have to be in dental floss?
Once they
Or-
know, once this is known information, it needs to not be there, period.
And in the meanwhile, the reason why we feel it's so important to devote an entire episode on this is because it is something that every single one of us need to be aware of. Because once you can't unknow, and again, like we always say, knowledge is power. So what you do with the information that we're sharing with you, maybe you'll just be a little more conscious about bringing those products into your home, using them on your body, and especially to protect the younger, whether you have children or grandchildren that are young or children that are starting to get pregnant and have babies, they really need to be so careful to prevent themselves from being inundated by these chemicals.
And our episode is on PFAS, and our show is The Toxic Truth About Water. And the issue is PFAS mostly affects water. It gets into the water so easily. That becomes one of the major ways that people are exposed every day. So that's why we can't wait to get this information out there so that people can take action, because they don't know it. They don't know they're sitting and bathing in it. They're bathing and showering in this, and they don't have to.
Right, and drinking it every day and cooking with it every day. And so really important information. So there's a couple of movies I just want to reference because many of you have seen one or both of them. And when it comes to who started all these forever chemicals, pretty much DuPont and 3M are the big companies that produce a lot of products that contain these forever chemicals. And those two movies are based on truth lawsuits regarding forever chemicals and how this impacted various farms and so forth.
Permeating the land and the water.
Killing
and
cattle
affecting
in the one movie,
exactly.
which is regarding West Virginia, and DuPont, that was called
Dark Waters.
Dark Waters, based on truth.
Right.
Highly recommend that you watch it. And the other, which was before that one, Erin Brockovich, which many people are more familiar with. But see them both, review them. Every now and then we'll just watch them. Why? Because we want to stay doom and gloom? No, because we do feel this purpose in just sharing the information, disseminating the information to people that are just, a lot of us, we just get lost in the sauce. We're in our world, we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to be as healthy as we can. We're trying to be happy and shed light and love and do all the things, right? But we forget how important certain things are in order to sustain a healthy, happy life.
And we have to take those things into our own power.
Correct.
That's the
right.
thing.
That's right.
I want to talk a second. There are some good things coming around the pike. They're trying to, again, how we'll get rid of these PFAS along the way, hard to say. That'll come out as the technology improves. But the EPA finally, after all these years, this year, 2024, came out and they're legally enforcing the regulation of public water to remove PFAS. Now, I'll be honest with you, we're skeptical of the ability for these local municipalities to actually successfully comply. Not that they don't want to. We don't even know if they'll be able to. So again, it's the government saying we recognize a major problem and now we need to really work on not producing more of this.
And that's why we want to share the information to empower everyone who listens to take it into our own hands. Like, we're not just going to sit around and wait for that to happen. Maybe someday, who knows? What's the impact in the meanwhile, right? So that's really what we wanted to share with you guys today. And in our next episode, we're going to continue exploring some of the contaminants that we're being exposed to. And then we're going to start getting into some better, more enlightening things to help, just to really listen. There's hope. This isn't doom and gloom. It's awareness. It's knowledge is power. And let's take that information and do what's best for each and every one of us so that we can live long, healthy, happy, and productive lives.
Right. So hopefully we didn't scare you to death, and that was not our intention. Our intention is to inform, enlighten, and educate you. So again, we want to thank you for joining us on The Toxic Truth About Water. Please make sure to follow and subscribe wherever you're listening to your podcast. This one simple step really helps ensure that you're never left in the dark when it comes to new information that comes to light.
And so remember also, like, we're all in this together. So keep on questioning, keep learning, stay healthy, and stay informed. Much love to you guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.